Hey, welcome back. So our little text adventure game is a fantastic start and it basically works. The challenge is it's possibly a little too basic. Once you realize that you just press M, T, L and O and that you're out and free, it's a little unsatisfying. So what I'd like to do now is lay the foundations to make the game a fair amount more complex. It's the same logic, the same code. We're just going to get used to some slightly tedious work of adding more assets to our game because this is too thin, this is too simple. So let's take a look at the game design document. So far, this has been our state diagram. And as you just saw, if you go M, T, L, O, then you end up out of the prison really quickly. So what I want to do is introduce a new level, if you like. We're not actually going to use Unity's levels here or scenes, we're just going to add more code. But I want to introduce a new dimension, which is a new section called the corridor. So instead of freedom, what we're going to do is we're going to go to a corridor state, which used to be called freedom. And that's why we start on the left-hand side with corridor_0. And from there, what can we do? Well, we can look at the stairs, but we decide we don't want to go up them because we're going to get rumbled or put straight back in prison. We could look at the closet, but realize the door's locked. We can look at the floor, and on the floor we see a hair clip, which we can choose to ignore, returning to the corridor, or we can pick up the hair clip. That takes us to a new corridor state. I'm calling it corridor 1 to represent progress. So from there we can look at the stairs again for a slightly different reason. We can reject the idea of going up them. Or we could choose to pick the lock of the closet with the newfound hair clip. When we do that, we can either dress up in cleaner's clothing with what we find inside, going straight to corridor 3, or we can return to the corridor, but it's again another new corridor state, because this time the closet's open. So we can use that opportunity to give people yet another reason why they shouldn't climb the stairs. But if they do decide to dress up, then they're back in the corridor with a dilemma. Do they make their run for freedom going up the stairs to the courtyard, or do they undress and end up back in the closet, tempted by the cleaner's clothes again? So this is just my simple convoluted story, and you can see how already this state machine is getting quite complicated. So obviously this is the last game we're going to do like this. In other sections we are going to use Unity to keep track of the states, but it's very useful early on as a coding exercise to use a complete finite state machine. So what are we going to do in this video? Well, we are going to prepare ourselves for adding this complexity. So we need to change all references of freedom to corridor, firstly. And this is a challenge, so what you're seeing on the screen with this green outline and the pause button at the bottom right is a challenge slide. So I want you to go and rename all references of freedom to corridor_0 and get it running. Some hints for you: you need to change the line in update. You'll need to rename your state method. You'll need to update your text. And you'll need to update the key press options. And have a think if there's anything else that you need to do. For example, what lock 1 go to? What state does lock 1 go to? And also don't forget your enumerated list. Okay, so pause the video and go ahead and make those changes now. Fantastic, welcome back. So let's do that to start with. Let's dive in and obliterate this freedom and call it, what are we going to call it? Corridor 0. So when I first change that in the if statement there, I'm going to get a red indication that that is not in the enumerated list. Well, you're quite right, it's not. Now we're running out of space in this enumerated list, so I'm going to go onto a new line and start putting my next state in here. Corridor_0, something like that. And actually, I'm just, for layout, I'm just going to bring, there you go. I'm going to do it like that, okay? And I'm actually going to put my curly brace on the line below. The final thing that's missing is a comma on the end of line 10. Okay, fantastic. So we have our corridor 0 in our enumeration now. Another thing I'd like to do is indent this first if statement so that they all line up. It's a very simple change, but now all of our states line up. I prefer that. Alright, so where else have we got freedom? Well, we have state underscore freedom here. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to change all of these state prefixes. I'm going to remove all the state prefixes. Let's do that first. How are we going to remove the state prefixes? So we go to the search menu and then replace. And anywhere that we see state underscore, I'm just going to take it away. Now let's just check this. Hit this button here that says replace. And you should find it's just removing the state prefix. It seemed like a good idea before, but the whole point of this video is getting used to refactoring and reorganizing your code. Fantastic. Okay, so now that looks like it's all good. We could run right now before we carry on to make sure that that find and replace worked. Let's just do that. View the seat, return, mirror, take, log, open. Okay, the only one that doesn't work is open, which is fine because we've already changed that method. Fantastic. So now that we've got rid of the state prefix, we can now get rid of this final freedom bit and call it corridor underscore 1, which of course is red. So let's go down to what was our freedom method and rename it corridor 1. And now we need to change the text and the key options. So refer to your GDD. I spent a lot of time in creating this second part of the game, thinking about how it's all going to work and trying it. And a lot of that time was spent staring at and reorganizing this diagram. And I would much prefer, when you're designing your game, that you spend time looking at a diagram and editing and changing a diagram. I don't mind if it's on paper or the computer, than spending a lot of time messing around with and changing your code. Because if it's not right in principle at the diagram level, then the code will not be right either. So you're much better off getting the plan right first. It's worth taking a little bit of time. So diving back to our code, let's complete this obliteration of the freedom state. So this method needs to be corridor 0. I'm just going to say you are in a corridor for now. We will leave press play to play again for now. Let's just leave that where it is. Of course, more needs doing, but I'm going to do that in a different video because there's quite a lot of work, and you may well have a different story. In fact, I hope you're creating your own story here. And if you are, I don't want you to have to watch me fill out my tedious story, so that's why I'm going to leave that till later. But what we need to do for now is complete the job of getting rid of freedom. So do a search, Control F, or search and find for the word freedom, and you'll see straight away here's a reference. So from lock 1, where should we be going? Let's have a look. Well, it's actually in the previous part of the state diagram. Lock 1 should take us to what was called freedom. I won't change that other diagram, but is now called corridor 0 on the left-hand side here. So this is one more reference that needs to come to be changed. So let's just do that now. This is on my line 87 against the lock method. Okay, now let's keep searching for freedom. The only final thing to tidy up is there's still a freedom left in the enumerated list. I'll take it out. No more references to freedom. So all that remains is to run the game after building or saving. Okay, so building does not work because corridor 1 does not exist. This is a simple typo. I'm saying if we're in state 0, go to corridor 1. No, corridor 0. Well done if you picked that up before. So the code builds and it has no references to freedom. If I now go back to Unity and run, let's just make sure it works. Now when you're checking your code, here's a tip for you in this type of state machine. Explore like this. Start at corridor 0. Go to all of the side things before you progress. So I'm going to go to stairs and back and closet door and, sorry, wrong state diagram. I'm going to go to sheets and back, lock and back, and then mirror and back, then mirror again and take. Sheets and back, lock and back, and then I'm going to go to lock, and then open. And then I've transitioned through every state. So let's just do that to be fully sure it's working. S for sheet, R to return, L for lock, R to return, M for mirror, R to return, M for mirror, T to take, S for sheet, R to return, L for lock, O to open, etc. You get the idea. Go through the whole lot. Okay, fine, it works. We have made our foundational change, our simple, very, very simple change of code, but I wanted to show you the techniques like find and replace. I wanted to show you the idea that you can indent your if statements. Let's go ahead and just do that consistently. You can indent them slightly differently. Even the first line can be indented so all the states line up well. I wanted to show you how you can put your enum states onto multiple lines up the top here if you want to, so that everything reads nicely. And now you are in a position where you really can create your own game and then just come back to me when you want to learn how to build and share it on the web. I really encourage you to skip the next video actually altogether and to just get on with writing your own logic and your own game. Spend some time scratching your head over a state diagram, please. But if you really do want to watch me fill out another 100 lines of code to get my full game working, then you're very welcome. There's a video rating for you.